Welcome to Ed's Place. Tonight we're going to do a pork cutlet. It's a variation of the sauteed dishes, and we're going to make an orange horseradish sauce with it. This is another one of them dishes. As you watch, it's a procedure more than it is anything else. As I said before, a lot of these things are procedural things more than anything else. We'll start off with a pork tenderloin. This is a pork tenderloin. It's very lean meat, very little fat on it. In fact, if you can believe their advertisement, there's probably less fat on this, if you trim it well, than there is on a chicken breast that's been with the skin still on it. But for the whole, it's very, very lean meat. And I don't trim it down too much because a little bit of the fat adds flavor. You don't want a lot of fat, but a little bit is not going to hurt us. You also could take a pork loin and bone it out, and take the heart of a pork loin and do this, which a lot of people do, but I like the tenderloins myself. Cut pieces about, I don't know, somewhere around an inch thick. And we're only going to do 3 of them, but you'll get the idea anyways, the procedure. All I do is set them on a board like that and take a mallet. You can use any kind of a meat flattener you want. I've seen people use a frying pan, a heavy frying pan or something, and just pound them down like that. The idea is when you hit it, to be going away. In other words, take the mallet or whatever you're hitting it with and kind of go away. Now, if you really wanted to get fussy, you could flatten these out and then trim them with a knife in the nice uniform shapes, but we're not going to do that because I think it's just a waste. But that's what you want, something about like that. 2 pork cutlets like that, they come 2 pork tenderloins. They come 2 in a package. Will feed 4 to 6 people easy, without any trouble at all. Especially when you, if you bread them or dip them in a batter like we're going to, and serve them with a sauce. You could probably even stretch it into feeding 8 people, but if you're serving several courses. I love these pork tenderloins. We use a lot of them at home. And it's funny, they weren't available up until just a couple of years ago. In fact, the first place I saw them was up in Montreal, Canada, and then it seems like I only saw them up there when they were available down here. If you can't get pork tenderloins and you want to try something, just bone out a pork chop. And if you bone out a good-sized pork chop and then cut the heart of the pork chop in half, you can get 2 cutlets out of it by flattening them out. But as I say, this is a procedural thing. You'll get the hang of it. Now, what you can do with them is you can either bread them, dip them in flour and then an egg and then in breadcrumbs, or you can make a batter and just put them in the batter. I like to do them in batter. It's not quite as heavy as the breadcrumbs. And this time of the year, you try and keep it as light as you can. What I have here is just seasoned flour with salt and pepper in it. And what I have here is a beer batter. And what it is the measure is 1 cup of flour, 2 eggs, about 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. You mix that together, and then you thin it out with beer until you get pancake batter consistency. Now, if you didn't want to use beer for whatever reason, you could use milk or you could just use water. But beer gives it kind of a unique flavor, and it's very common, beer batter. I like it very much. Also, if you wanted to, another way I've done it is simply dip them in flour and then dip them in beaten egg and then fry them. But I like the beer batter situation a little better. Before we do that, though, we're going to put some oil in this pan and heat it up. What I have here is olive oil. And if you're going to saute something like this, they tell you to film the dish, or film the pan. I like to put about 1/4 inch of oil in there. That's olive oil. And according to some of the chefs I've talked to, you want the fat in the pan to come halfway up on the side of whatever you're cooking. It would be a cutlet or what have you. So about 1/4 inch on these cutlets will just about do that. We'll let that get a little hot. I'm sure you've heard it before, heat your pan up and then put the oil in it. By the way, this is a new pan I just purchased. It probably looks like an old pan, but I seasoned it. This is a steel pan. These are very popular in commercial kitchens for sauteing. They'll take heat well, and they handle very, very well. Much better than them cheap aluminum or tin steel things you can buy. It'd be worth it. It's about, a pan like this will cost you around $25, but it'll last you the rest of your life. So it's at $25 for the rest of your life. That's pretty cheap. We'll take these cutlets and put them in the flour. You just want a dusting of flour on them, because the flour helps the batter to adhere better. That's the only reason you're putting them in the flour. These little plastic trays, I bought them in, I don't know where, one of them discount stores. What I like about them is I got 3 of them. And if I'm ever breading, I put flour in one, eggs in the other, and then breadcrumbs, and they're right there. And the little secret about when you're doing that, if you're breading or something like that, use only one hand. Take a cutlet, dip it in the flour, shake off the excess flour, then in the egg, then out of the egg, and into the breadcrumbs. That way always got one clean hand. Because if you use both hands, before you know it, both hands are breaded, and then you feel like you got a pair of gloves on. So using one hand is the way to do it. I think my oil is hot enough now. The fact of the matter is, I think it's a little too hot. We'll see. Doesn't take long to cook these. If you don't want to use olive oil, I like to use olive oil because I like the flavor of olive oil, to be honest with you. But you could use regular cooking oil, or you could use clarified butter. Clarified butter is nice, but a lot of people are getting away from that now. I know I'm a big butter person, but I'm also a realist, and people are getting away from using a lot of butter. So use a cooking oil of some kind. As I say, it doesn't take too long for these to cook. They'll cook up pretty fast because they're thin. Another thing about this batter, as I said before, it's not too heavy. You know, and if you're looking for something a little on the light side, this is the way to do it with a batter like this. And in the summer months, if you cook a dish like this and you want to eat light in the summer, you really don't need a starch. Like you don't need a pasta or you don't need a potato, because you got the batter on there, and that'll take the place of your starch. So all you really need with this is like a green vegetable and a salad. What I serve with this at home is I take green beans and I cook them and let them cool to room temperature. And then I just mix them with chopped up red onion, and then I make a vinaigrette out of olive oil and red wine vinegar and mix it with it and put in just enough oregano so you know it's there. And serve it at room temperature with a dish like this, and that's all you really need. And it's makes for a real tasty dish. You also, as I say, you could do the veal, you could do the chicken. The sauce we're going to make is kind of unique, and it's a little bit different, although then again not that different if you read some of the gourmet magazines that are published. But I like horseradish myself, and I think that if you don't use too much of it, it gives a nice taste to things. And the orange juice is a little different. It's got the acidity in the orange that will help cut the richness of the pork. So all in all, it goes together pretty well. You could make a sauce, you could make a pan sauce. Say this was lamb cutlets. Say we were doing lamb cutlets here. What I would do is, first of all, I wouldn't bread lamb, or I wouldn't batter it. I'd cook lamb natural. Take the lamb out of the pan and deglaze the pan with a little white wine and add some lamb stock. And you say, where do you get lamb stock from? Well, one easy way to do it is to buy lamb chops. Take the center of the lamb chop out. Now you got your lamb cutlet, and with the bones left over, you make the stock. So it's not as hard to do as you might think. You put the lamb stock in and bring it down till it gets to be kind of syrupy. Then add some creme de cassis to it, and you got a unique sauce to serve with lamb cutlets. It's something you don't get every day. All right, cutlets are done here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get rid of this fat, so you'll have to excuse my back for a minute. You're going to build a sauce in a pan. You want to try and get all the heavy particles out of there, although we are going to strain it, so it really isn't that critical. Before we make the sauce, though, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll be back very shortly. Thank you.
Part of your town, a picture of the things you do, working 24 hours every day to keep the signal coming through. We're Continental, we put everything on the line. Continental, we put everything on the line for you.
All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to build a sauce for them cutlets we cooked. What I didn't tell you earlier is that when you take the cutlets out of the pan like that, when they're done, it's best to put them in a warming oven or someplace that'll keep them warm, because it'll take a few minutes to make the sauce, and you really don't want the cutlets to, to cool off. I usually turn my oven on. Warm in my oven is less than 140 degrees, and that keeps things good and hot, but doesn't start the cooking process. So what we'll do first of all, we'll take the cutlets and we'll put them on the plate we're going to serve them in, and then make believe that we're going to put them in a warming oven. We just put them in the warming oven. Put the pan on medium-high heat. You want pretty good heat when you do this. We poured most of the fat out of the pan. There'll be a little residue fat left in there, but that'll mix right in with the sauce. Now what we're going to do is we're going to deglaze the pan with a little white wine, and then we're going to add the orange juice, and we're going to reduce that a little. And then we'll add some mustard and horseradish and make sure that blends good. And then we'll swirl in some butter to give the sauce a good rich gloss and taste. And that'll be the finished product. If you preferred not to use wine, a lot of people have a problem with alcohol products. It's just all right. Just deglaze the pan with a little stock, a little chicken stock, or if nothing else, water, just plain water. Pan's hot enough now. Pan's hot enough, all right. It's a little too hot. You don't get, in some dishes, especially if you're cooking a lot of fat, you don't get a lot of goodies off the bottom of the pan when you deglaze it, but you do get some. Surprisingly or not, you get some flavor off it. And just stand over the pan, and when the zinger or the spike is out of the fumes that are coming off the top of the pan, that means your alcohol has pretty much been evaporated. Now what this is fresh orange juice that I squeezed. I get a little less than a cup here, and when I put into this, I'm probably going to put maybe a half a cup in there. Yeah, that's about a half a cup. And we want to bring this back to a good boil. Instead of using juice, if you want, and making the same sauce, the same, everything being the same, you could use marmalade, you could use apricot jam, or you could use currant jelly. Any one of them three would give you a similar type sauce, give you a little different flavor. Especially the currant jelly one would give you, a little different flavor. The marmalade one wouldn't be that much different. The apricot one would be a little bit different, not as radically different as the other one I mentioned there. The red currant jelly. The red currant jelly one would be a nice one to serve with the lamb cutlets. Would go good with that. And if you were fortunate enough to, during the hunting season, to get some venison, this would be a good type of sauce to serve with venison cutlets or venison steak, a fruit-type sauce, especially the red currant one. We're going to bring this down a little more. The term "bring it down" simply means to evaporate it. I use a Dijon mustard and, I use a regular white horseradish. If you wanted to, if you're a purist, you can get horseradish root and grate it yourself right into it, but I find this is sufficient and makes for a nice sauce. Now, how much horseradish you're going to put in is that's up to you. If it was me, I'd put a tablespoon in because I like horseradish that much. But I put a light teaspoon in there. Next thing I'm going to add is about a light teaspoon of Dijon mustard. If you don't want to use Dijon, use yellow mustard, use any kind you want. Take about 2 tablespoons of butter, put it right in, take it off the heat, and just keep swirling it around. The butter will melt down. It'll help thicken the sauce, and it'll enrich the sauce, make the sauce that much richer. Also adds a gloss to the sauce. You don't care what it looks like right now because you're going to strain this anyways. Personally, I would want more horseradish, but that's just a matter of taste. I have another thing about straining sauces too. A lot of sauces I don't strain, but it seems to be the accepted thing to do is strain a sauce. I like a lot of the goodies that get into a sauce. As well as this dish here, a pork tenderloin is a very easy piece of meat to work with. You could take the pork tenderloin and rub it with some sort of a dry marinade and roast it in the oven and still serve it with one of these sauce or a variation of this sauce. Another way of doing it is to broil the pork tenderloin in the oven. What I've also done is I've taken the 2 tenderloins mashed them up head to tail, put them on a skewer, and barbecued them outside, on a barbecue basis. It's a unique piece of meat that you can do an awful lot with if you choose to. It makes for a good pork stew in the cold months. There's any number of variations that you can work with this. The reason I did this dish tonight is because it's a light dish and it's a quick dish for the summer. And I think you'll like it any way you try it. Well, here we have it. It's a pork cutlet done in a beer batter, served with an orange horseradish sauce. And very quick, very simple, kind of unique. I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you.